I know I get bored if I just have one thing in front of me. So the ability to go and really help a bunch of different projects is the best thing ever, and build a team, and to see, the impact some of these make as well. Like, we own a part of a USL soccer team in Westchester, New York, right in the Rye area, Mount Vernon. And just to see kids come, to our youth academy, and the excitement. And it's really awesome where a lot of these have real tangible, right? They're not just some random software on your phone, like a typical tech investor. And yeah, we have some of those, but to really like feel and see the impact they're making as well, and knowing they're really good financial assets also is really fun.
Welcome to Mitlin Money Mindset, your weekly dose of inspiration and insights to ensure you enjoy each step of your journey. Whether you're saving for the future, planning your next big adventure, or simply looking to add more joy to your life, you've come to the right place. Now, let's dive in.
I'm Larry Sprung, your host for the Mitlin Money Mindset and founder and wealth advisor of Mitlin Financial. Today's guest is Andrew Petcash, founding partner at Profluence Capital. Andrew is a dynamic entrepreneur and financial expert who has carved out a niche in the world of venture capital and strategic investments. As the founding partner at Profluence Capital, Andrew is at the helm of a firm dedicated to driving innovation and supporting the growth of promising startups and businesses. His keen eye for investment opportunities and his strategic approach have positioned him as a leading figure in the venture capital space. With a background in finance and a passion for empowering entrepreneurs, Andrew has been instrumental in helping numerous companies scale and succeed. His insights into market trends, investment strategies, and business development are invaluable for anyone looking to navigate the complexities of the financial world. Join us as we delve into Andrew's entrepreneurial journey, explore the principles that underpin his investment philosophy, and gain expert insights into the world of venture capital. Well, I have the pleasure today of being with Andrew Petcash, the founding partner at Profluence Capital. I am so excited about this conversation. I love talking about sports, business, and this just brings it all together. So welcome to the show, Andrew.
Larry, appreciate you having me. And I love sports, business, investing as well. So it should be good.
Should be a good match. So listen, we're going to spend a lot of time talking about Profluence and what you're doing today, but I'm always enamored, as well as our listeners, about the entrepreneurial journey. So can you share a little bit about your journey to becoming an entrepreneur? What did that look like? How did that happen?
Yeah, well, first off, it's in the blood, both the parents entrepreneurs. So, anyone that comes from that, it's just can't get away from it. Landscaping businesses, YouTube channels, ice cream stands, the whole 9 yards when I was younger, selling shoes, jerseys. And then in college started my first, we'll call it real one, which was a media publication called College Athlete Insight. Really good timing with the college athletes getting paid in that whole legislation, because I started a little bit before. So when it hit, was able to go through an aqua hire situation there. Worked in the sports tech lane. I was not a founder or not a entrepreneur for a little bit, didn't like it, and had to jump back over to Profluence, which we'll talk more about today. So yeah, I don't know. I think my whole life I'm at least going to have a few things, if not everything, that is on my shoulders, which is good.
Yeah, so I guess you're telling me that my kids are basically doomed for a life of entrepreneurship, being that both my wife and I are entrepreneurs, and I mean doomed in a tongue-in-cheek standpoint, because I don't think there's anything better than being an entrepreneur. So I don't know about you, but I'm unemployable, so can't do it.
Yeah, I haven't had enough of the other side to say whether I am or not. I think I'd be really good at whatever I do. But yeah, I like kind of having it on my own terms.
I think at this point it might be a bit of a shock for you, but who knows? Listen, as the world continues to evolve, can you speak to, because this is somewhere where you are directly sitting in, which is the intersection of sports, technology, and media. What's going on there?
Well, there's a lot going on. And the first is sports is becoming a fertile ground for building companies because of its built-in community, because of the massive growth we're seeing across it. If you just look at the sports industry as a whole, 17% compound annual growth rate expected over the next decade. So that's a big area we're attacking. And you're just seeing this mixing of what is sports? Well, a lot of it really is media properties. It really is tech. And we're seeing a lot of big funds come in and purchase stakes in these teams. And what are they buying? They're buying future attention. They're buying eyeballs. So sports, tech, and media are very synergistic. And when you look at sports and entertainment, which I think they should be combined as an industry, it's the third largest in the world behind oil and healthcare. So it's big. It's in all of our lives every day, and it's increasing. I think a lot more of us have this attention on fitness and wellness, and that carries over. And sports is a great wedge to so many other things, especially media and tech, because when you get into collectibles or creator economy or fitness, health, wellness, all this, it touches sports in some way. And so we're seeing a massive growth across this vertical, and we like to sit in the middle of it.
It feels to some degree that, it's somewhat new. Like this is a newer phenomenon, although sports have been around for so long, right? People are fans following their teams. We've heard about teams like, for example, our local baseball team, the Yankees, and their inherent value growing over the years. Why has this become such a highly followed thing and just so much more interest in that avenue just recently?
There's a handful of factors. I'll start with the international appeal as well. When you look at a Saudi Arabia, you look at an India, it's now like sports have always been there, but they haven't been maybe fully commercialized. And the IPL, for example, the Indian Premier League, which is the cricket league in India, second largest league, second most valuable league in the world behind the NFL. And their stars there are bigger than LeBron James. They're bigger than a Derek Jeter. They're bigger than that, but no one knows. But now, because of this globalization of everything, social media, and Gen Z and how they treat this, everything's become a lot smaller. And the appeal has been, and a lot of it's democratizing as well. Before, if you weren't a billionaire, you didn't have a chance to own a team, or you weren't one of the original owners. Now it's becoming, there's a lot more opportunities to get into these assets and grow alongside them. And sports betting and the media rights, it's all pushed to, valuations have been crazy. You can debate whether they're at a peak or whether they're just getting started. But it's a really cool time to be in sports. And also athletes are making a lot more money, and they're always in the public domain, right? We see them everywhere, and now they're getting smarter about their money. And you see Jason Tatum for the Celtics that just signed a couple months ago, a $314 million deal, right? Well, what's he doing now? Now he's investing, and great. Now you're hearing that, talking about it. And a lot of the athletes, you look at pickleball, they went and invested into, a lot of basketball, football, baseball, hockey players went and invested into emerging sport in pickleball. So I think we're just getting hit from so many lenses, and sports is the last live viewing option. It's the only thing keeping cable TV, alive.
Yeah, you're probably right. We just had a big cricket event here on Long Island at Eisenhower Park, which, I didn't realize that there was such a fandom around that. And it was, from my understanding, it was very well received and very well attended. So, and I don't remember, but there was a huge upset. I don't remember what the two countries were, but it was pretty interesting because it made all the news here.
Yeah, well, the U.S. beat Pakistan.
Right.
So it was a whole thing of the U.S., they're all mainly Indian Americans, American Indians. And they're all, their parents came over from India, and they all work at like these tech companies, and they play cricket on the side, and they beat Pakistan. So it's Pakistan, India have a huge rivalry. So there's a lot of just funny irony in it. And then, the main game, India, Pakistan, sold out, 34,000 people. Tickets were going for up to 2,500. I mean, it was nuts. Sorry, just to touch on that a little bit. I think it was worth talking about. Cricket's coming to the U.S. big time.
Yeah, amazing. And I can't even say that I've ever sat and watched a match, I should say, but I probably will soon as a result of that. So, can you share with us, why did you end up founding Profluence Sports? And then what do you guys do? Where do you sit in this intersection of sports technology and media?
Yeah, so the first gap I saw when I was working at the sports tech company was there was no central place for, we'll call it the builders in sports, the founders, executives, investors. There was nowhere to get top content, top conversations, right? The podcasts and newsletters. And I said, if we can go and start there and create that niche and create that, because everything's for the fans, right? They're talking about what LeBron James ate last night, not what's LeBron James' business. So they're talking about, why is cricket this player doing, but not what's the business opportunity in cricket. So that was the start of Profluence, more on the media side. Naturally progressed as you build deal flows, you build access, as you build relationships, partnered with a very successful gentleman in the alternative asset class in private equity, Mitch, and we started Profluence Capital. So it's the investment arm of Profluence. So we invest in sports IP on the emerging side. So leagues, teams, agencies, events, and we have a handful of investments there. And then we also invest on the other side into sports technology, which I talked about at the beginning, is very broad. So we have companies that are really ad tech or media tech, but all their clients are in sports. AI scheduling platforms, AI automated stats and highlights, a bunch of different things on at that intersection of sports tech and media. And then we built a community as well for founders. So when people hear this, hopefully our goal is 500 members. We're at about 200 right now. But it's sort of the in-between of the media and the fund. We view it as an advanced incubator, where the goal is to take early stage founders and give them all the resources. So it builds off the content and then hopefully lead them to an investment by us in the future. And that's been cool and amazing to work with so many awesome founders doing really cool things and doing it in sports as well. So Profluence as a whole, there's media, there's community, and then there's an investment vehicle on the back end of it. And they all work together in this flywheel effect to help build value and return money to investors.
Now, on the investment side, just to touch on that for a second, right? Are you on the democratization side, where basically low barrier to entry, you could kind of get in there, or is it really more on the larger investment side, accredited investor, hedge fund type investment vehicles?
Yeah, we're more through the accredited, right? So we have minimums and a lot of high net worth, a lot of high, family offices, and starting to talk to institutions. It's the first fund. Even though my partner's done many of them and raised billions of dollars and been very successful, I'm still out at the front of it. So I'm an emerging manager. So starting to work in as we head towards a second vehicle, the institutions, and what does this look like as it grows and gets much bigger. And we now start to put much larger chunks of capital into companies. And our whole thing is these unique opportunities and covering them through our ecosystem. And the vehicle we've built gets us access and preferential terms to things you're not going to come across and you're not going to understand unless you're deep in the sports world. And that gives us our advantage across multiple different fronts. And it's fun. My personality is I know I get bored if I just have one thing in front of me. So the ability to go and really help a bunch of different projects is the best thing ever, and build a team and to see, the impact some of these make as well. Like we own a part of a USL soccer team in Westchester, New York, right in the Rye area, Mount Vernon. And just to see kids come, to our youth academy and the excitement. And it's really awesome where a lot of these have a real tangible, right? They're not just some random software on your phone, like a typical tech investor. And yeah, we have some of those, but to really like feel and see the impact they're making as well. And knowing they're really good financial assets also is really fun. And just to be in sports, which I've been in. I've played college basketball at Boston University as well, which I don't know if I mentioned earlier, but so I've known sports and entrepreneurship, it feels like, my whole life.
Yeah. Now you're bringing it all together. And, I love the idea of having this incubator, right? Because I think it's a great way for you guys to stay on top of the trends that might be taking place, right? What's new, what's hot, what's really interesting. And at the same time, have a first look in view to some of these companies that are, definitely at a very early stage, but could be very successful. So is the goal to help them also seek funding from outside of your organization? Or is it really like, if I'm a sports company, sports related business, if I'm in that incubator, am I getting that funding from you if there is that runway scene? Or are you helping all types of companies, whether they're in the incubator or not, to seek out that funding if they need it?
Yeah, I mean, some will come external for sure. We've made our first investment into one of the incubator companies. And again, it's like an advance. It's not like your true typical accelerator incubator. It's all digital. It's off this community. We have all the resources. We bring in speakers. We have events both digitally and in person. And we just believe that's where the venture space is moving toward anyway. The ultimate goal, yes, is if we see a really good opportunity, we want to go in and close as much of that investment as possible and own as much of that company and sit on the board. But where we are in our fund size, we're not quite there yet. So we typically are writing our check and then going to get some external capital from our trusted network of co-investors all across the world in different segments, from family offices to other VCs. But yeah, the main goal is ownership through our access. And we also built it to show some of the larger institutions and the family offices and high net worths, like, okay, we can tell you we have access, and that's great, and we do, and we know that, but let us just show you. So when you can come in there and see, like I said, hopefully when this comes out, there's 500 members in there, if not more. Now you really can feel and go, wow, there's a lot of cool companies. How do I really manage this? How do I really know which ones are interesting? Well, that's our job. That's our goal. And like you said, you can see how people move, and you can see their trajectory, where they might come in and you help them build a deck and meet 3 people and introduce them to someone that can really help their business or sit on their board. And then all of a sudden, 6 months later, it's like, wow, they've come a long way. This is super interesting. They're making a lot of progress. Now we have deeper insight than anyone else to make a smarter investment and hedge our bet even further.
Yeah, I think it's such a smart way and a great way to kind of see what's going on and have that first look into those new opportunities. I want to shift for a minute to the business end, because we have a lot of entrepreneurs that follow our show, and we're always looking to add value to them and takeaways from people who have been successful. And you've been successful in getting over 500,000 followers on social, and getting a real tremendous following there. What advice do you have for those out there who are trying to grow their audience, through the various social media channels? Because you've obviously been very successful at that.
Yeah, it's something I'm definitely good at. I think some people have more of a knack than other people, but you really got to start posting a lot and then looking at what's successful out there and then fine tune it. So to go, okay, here's some formats, here's some people that whatever niche they're in, it's working. How can I take this to my interest areas and apply it and grow it? And then you got to network like anything else. I mean, social media, it's supposed to be social. Reach out to people, meet people, and you start to create some groups, and they can comment. And, having a podcast is a huge advantage. We have one ourselves, because then you post it and someone has a big audience, and now you get exposed to other people that normally weren't there. So it is a grind. Like there's no question about it. I mean, you could just focus on social media as a full-time job, which is why big companies hire, multiple people just to run their social accounts. But it's also, you got to view it as, it's not how many followers you have always. It's not how many likes or retweets or whatever it is. It's who's seeing it, which you never know. And I relate it back to the sports days. My dad would always be like, you never know what coach is in the gym. And it's true. You don't know. Because there might not actually be coaches, but someone's best friend might be a coach at a school and he sees you, and that's how you get recruited, right? It's real small like that. I view it similar to social, where there's people and I'll go look, and we have investors that have seen our content, seen our media, and been like, wow, this is really interesting. I see what they're doing. I want to be a part of this. I believe in them. And when you go look, they don't follow us on social media. They don't like anything. They don't comment, but they're getting sent it. They're following from afar. So you never really know. And that's the advantage of it. I think it's the greatest thing I've done, is everything comes from it. But I will say it was really hard to get it there. And now to sustain it is maybe even tougher. But it is a little bit easier when you have more of that momentum and follower base.
Yeah, I think that's a great analogy, right? Because whatever you're doing, there's always eyeballs watching, and it's not necessarily about them per se. It's about who they might know that might be able to connect you, et cetera. So I think that's an excellent analogy, especially of a dad of 2 boys who played, athletics and continue to play. And we say that all the time. You never know who's going to be at the rink watching you, who knows somebody who's going to make a call. So great analogy there. Now, one of the things that we talk about very often, and I just had a similar conversation recently, is, social media is great as far as getting your name out there, followers, and getting those eyeballs, like you said. But really, that's a rented environment, right? You're just renting space from those platforms, those channels. If they want to change their algorithm or who's seeing this, you're at their mercy. So really the way to build up, organically a following that you own is by an email list or newsletter list. And you've done that successfully as well, growing to, I think, north of like 30,000 subscribers to your newsletter. What advice do you have for those out there who want to grow that, owned real estate, if you will, rather than the rented? Was that a different tactic and technique that you took with the newsletter versus social media?
Yeah, to me, it's all a funnel, right? So you start out, here's the rented audience, like you said. How do you get people from an X, from a LinkedIn, Instagram, whatever you use, and then push them down to an owned? And you got to have different content. You got to have different value adds, right? And you got to tease a little bit. You always got to be testing things out. That's the ultimate thing I've learned is you just don't know what's going to work until you try it. And I would say, like, a lot of people probably spend too much money as well, like trying to find these quick hacks or people that claim they can help them a lot. Like, it's got to fall on you, and you got to have that unique voice. And I think about the newsletter as I'm gonna dive a lot deeper. Like, people, you're probably not going to come on Twitter and see a super deep diver. I'm going to use LinkedIn, for example. I have, I don't know, I think 21,000 followers on there now. And I'll put, say it'll be like basically a paragraph that would be part of a larger newsletter, but it's just enough where you're like, this is super helpful. It's valuable. Now I'm going to follow you because I want to see more. But if you come to the newsletter, now you're seeing the podcast. Now you're seeing, I might talk about the cricket stats. I might say that on LinkedIn and go, that's interesting. But in a newsletter, I'm going to go way deeper. I'm going to give you the whole outline. What's the market map? What other stats, data? Why is it interesting? What companies are building in it? And when you do that, now you start to build trust and you start to get people on both fronts. And yeah, I mean, my ultimate goal at some point, it's like my content is all going to live in an owned audience. If you want to see what Andrew Petcash or Profluence or whatever we're doing, it's going to be in our ecosystem, newsletters, podcasts, our community, which is now an owned one and even tighter. But again, it's, do you want to stop filling the top of funnel? So anyway, that's something I'm working through. Everyone always is.
Well, I mean, it sounds like that top of funnel has really fed to those subscribers, right? So it's just a matter of putting that content out there, little snippets to get them interested to want to do the deep dive. And I guess those people that want to go the deep dive, those are probably a good fit for what you're looking for. And those who don't necessarily want to do the deep dive, maybe they're just not a good fit for you. And that may just be now or maybe forever, but eventually they may come down to that newsletter list, right?
Yeah. And also, like, the B2B, I like way better. I've tried to go more the B2C route, try to go more for sports fans. Then it's like, okay, if you're not getting a big sports betting contract or something, like, it's hard to constantly fulfill the needs of very high level dopamine hitting sports fans, which we'll just call B2C. When you go B2B and you start to get the business builders, to me, yeah, you sort of kill the advertising side of the business if that's what you're trying to do. But you're going to get, which is what we didn't want to do at all, because we're building a fund, we're building a community. We don't want to sell out to the high, on the media side. Right. So our whole media is really just top of funnel for you to come into our community and then introduce you to our fund. And I think every company, you'll hear this, every company is going to be a media company, or every company is a media company of some sort. So I believe that? Yes, no, I think there's different things. I think social media is still very early. It's going to go through a lot of different phases. A lot of kids at the younger are starting to get burned out of it. You're seeing flip phones come back. We're going to go through phases like anything. It pushes one way, pushes back the others. And yeah, it's attention is going to be interesting to see where it goes over time. But yeah, I would say owned audience, right? I'd much rather have a newsletter subscriber than a Twitter follower.
Yeah, and as you'd rather have, you're not going to have as many Twitter followers as you're going to have owned audience, but that's fine, because that owned audience are people who want to listen to you. So talking about that content, for all the content you've written, what piece have you found has had the most traction for you and Profluence?
Yeah, it's something we think about a lot internally. So I appreciate that question, even just because I think about it a lot. It's been the ones that I don't want to say are polarizing. They're not polarizing, but they're a unique spin on something that maybe you've seen or but and it's very data and stat heavy, but it has somewhat of a thesis hypothesis from our side into it. So the one that popped off the most, and I've talked about this a few times now, but it was like India is going to be the sporting capital of the world. So, again, like that's a broad statement. Maybe some people will call it clickbait. It's not, because we're going to explain, but I'm also going to explain at the end. I don't actually mean like India is going to be where everything happens in sports, not the US or whatever, but just saying like it's growing a ton. There's a ton of big companies coming out of it in the sports media tech ecosystem. There's IPL growing and things like that catch, because you walk away going, oh, this is interesting. Yeah, India is going to grow a lot, but it has that title that draws you in. It has the data and stats that make it intriguing, and it lets you know this is interesting, but it sort of clarifies. So that is one that's really popped off. Another one was pickleball has been real hot over the last few years.
Yeah.
We broke down what are the business opportunities in pickleball. And I still probably get an email a day from some random person. Hey, I'm thinking of starting this, what are your thoughts? Because we just said, here are 11 opportunities that would be interesting in pickleball. And it's start a newsletter or build a facility or, we've laid out every possible opportunity.
I think there's a big opportunity with physical therapists.
Yes.
Think about the population that's playing. A lot of them are, becoming athletic for the first time, and there's a lot of aches and pains that go along with that.
Yeah, there was a stat that came out, and I can't recall it now, but it was the injuries are up 79% or something nuts since the last couple of years, and there was certainly 65 up or something like that.
We have a family that we work with where the husband's an orthopedist, and he was letting us know that like a lot of the injuries he sees coming into his office are from older people playing pickleball and they're coming in to see him simply because they're wearing the wrong sneakers. They're wearing running sneakers to go play pickleball, and then they're rolling their ankle because they're not getting the support. So who knows? Maybe there's something there. I don't know.
Makes sense.
You mentioned earlier, NIL, name, image, likeness. What's your take on that?
I have a lot of different takes on it. The first is it's way overdue. College athletes should have been paid a long time ago. It's pushing everything downstream is my big business takeaway. A lot of people want to look right at where it's happening. They want to look at what are the business opportunities affiliated with it in college sports. But our thinking is very much what happens when college becomes pro? Where are the opportunities below that? Because if there's, let's just say, I think there's like 132 main pro sports teams, so like MLS, NBA, the 5 major leagues in the US. Then there's hundreds of college programs, but really the biggest market size is in the youth. Well, the tops always had NIL, and now you're implementing it to the middle. So what happens, and does this expand this money and operation? And do you create mini like college leagues in high school? So that's how we're looking at it. That's probably a much different answer than you'd get from anyone else. But the face value is, yes, it's good. It should have happened. There's crazy amount of money going around. College basketball transfers are getting $2 million a year, some of the top ones. The market will even out over time. It should, right? And then it's going to change that landscape completely. College programs are going to come online to be invested in, just like pro sports teams have. But to me, the big opportunities are downstream into this developmental leagues, high school, and even below.
Interesting take. One other thing you mentioned that I'd be remiss if I didn't ask, because I have very strict feelings about this, opinion. I'm very opinionated about it, which was gambling, right? What do you feel, or how do you feel about the whole sports gambling thing and how it's like everywhere now within the sports? You can't go anywhere, TV, radio, online, helmets, without seeing it. What are your thoughts around that?
It's definitely boosted the industry as a whole, sports, in a lot of different ways, and it's impacted everyone and a lot of positive, right? I have friends that create social media content on TikTok or whatever, and they have a real business and opportunity now because a sports betting company is paying them to promote them. I'm not a gambler myself, never have been. I feel like my gambles are in business and stocks and in private investments. So like those are very safe gambles to say, like I'm betting on myself always and the people around me. So I don't like to bet on things I have zero control over, which is something like a game, or is someone going to hit a three, or is there going to be a timeout or whatever. So I don't personally do it, but I do study the industry quite extensively, and I know and familiar with a lot of the apps and how they work and a lot of the people building them. And there are good people doing it. And the bottom line is gambling's happened forever, and it was going to happen regardless. But I do have some concerns as it spreads out and it's very addicting, and you get younger kids doing it, and people spend a lot of money, and it traps you in, and it's a dopamine rush. And so I have a lot of different mixed feelings about it. But from a business lens, good in sports, I look at a lot of things in there. From a personal lens, I don't do it. And I think, everyone should be able to have self-control, but there maybe should be some regulation. But yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of mixed feelings. I'm sure we could go on and on about different lanes there, but I'm pretty, I try to keep a high level. I don't focus too much on the betting gambling space.
Yeah, I mean, my concerns are just really around the social impact. And I agree with you. If you're a grown adult, you have choices to make, and those are your choices to make. My fear is, I even with my own kids, I've seen this start spreading to the college, the high school, the middle school level. And that's where it starts getting a little concerning. Are we creating something that we, 10 years from now, we're going to wake up and we're going to have a bigger problem than people are forecasting today? But, from a business standpoint, an adult standpoint, I'm with you 100% on that. It's fine. Right.
Yeah.
So, well, listen, Andrew, it's been a pleasure having you on, and we end each show, because we're all about joy on the Mitlin Money Mindset, by asking each of our guests the same final question, which is, what did you do today that brought you joy and put you in the right mindset for success?
I wake up with joy every morning because I have my little routine. It's amazing. Wake up, little workout. Today was a run, and then meditate for 10 minutes, read my Bible for a little bit, and I'm good to roll. And that, when I start every day like that, it's hard to have a losing one. We've had some technical difficulties at the start, but things like that are a lot smoother when I take care of that. So that always puts things into perspective for me. And yeah, man, it's at the end of the day, like, none of us, we're all just playing this game and trying to figure it out. And so I just try to treat it I try to keep it light across everything.
Well, sounds like a good way to start the day. We're going to have Andrew, we're going to have yours and Profluence Capital. We're going to have all their information in the show notes. But if people want to connect with you, learn more about you, learn more about Profluence, what's the easiest and the best place for them to do that?
The best place currently is Andrew Petcash on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn/in/Andrew Petcash. You'll see me. I have a little cartoon character. I do that to stand out a little bit more. Top voice too, so there'll be a little blue check mark. And I try to answer all messages there, and then you can see everything we're doing. Like, from a business lens, you can see our fund and our investments we've made. You can see more about our community and our media, and some of my insights I post there 5 days a week as well. So some of the mini insights, and if you want to join the newsletter, then you can. So everything's right there.
Awesome. So if you want the deep dive, go to the newsletter. If you like the tidbits, go to the deep dive and get the newsletter. So listen, Andrew, it's been a pleasure having you on. Thank you so much for the time. I appreciate it, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, Larry. It's been awesome.
I want to thank Andrew Petcash for being a guest on the Mitlin Money Mindset. Andrew's passion can be found in all he does and in his track record of success. Sports are a growing industry and has garnered significant interest in recent years. More investors than ever are looking to diversify into successful sports businesses, and Andrew's platform allows them to come together, connect, and support one another. Andrew Petcash and Profluence Capital can be found across most social media platforms. All the contact information needed to find them can be found in the show notes.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Mitlin Money Mindset. Remember, it's not just about the money, it's finding joy in the journey and embracing the right mindset. If you love the show, be sure to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Don't forget to follow along for more tips and inspiration. Please visit the social links below to connect with Larry or his guests. Until next time, keep smiling, keep thriving, And remember to think about, what did you do today that brought you joy?
The opinions voiced in the Mitlin Money Mindset show with Lawrence Sprung are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. Investing involves risk, including possible loss of principal. No strategy ensures success or protects against loss. To determine what may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, financial or tax advisor prior to investing. Investment advisory services offered through CWM LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Guests on the Mitlin Money Mindset show are not affiliated with CWM LLC.